In the heart of an ancient, forgotten city, a towering obsidian palace loomed, its spires piercing the night sky like jagged fangs. This was the seat of power for the vampire dynasty, a realm where immortality and darkness reigned supreme. For centuries, the undead had ruled from the shadows, their existence whispered only in the darkest of legends. At the center of this empire of blood and shadows sat Empress Raven, a figure of breathtaking beauty and unrivaled power. Her alabaster skin seemed to glow in the moonlight, a stark contrast to her raven-black hair and the crimson lips that hid her lethal fangs. She was the embodiment of the dynasty's strength, a queen who had ruled for centuries with an iron fist and a seductive smile. But beneath the veneer of opulence and control, cracks had begun to form in the foundation of the vampire dynasty. Whispers of discontent echoed through the halls of the obsidian palace as ancient rivalries and new ambitions stirred in the hearts of the undead nobles. Some yearned for a taste of the Empress's power, while others sought to break free from the suffocating traditions that had bound them for so long. Empress Raven sensed the growing unrest, her keen eyes observing the shifting loyalties and secret plots that swirled around her. She knew that her reign was not absolute, that even the most powerful could be brought low by the machinations of the court. In the world of the undead, where eternity was the ultimate prize, no throne was ever truly secure. As the night deepened and the shadows grew longer, Empress Raven prepared herself for the challenges that lay ahead. She would not relinquish her power easily, for it had been bought with centuries of blood and sacrifice. The vampire dynasty would endure, even if it meant unleashing the darkest of magics and the most terrifying of secrets. In the empire of blood and shadows, only the strong would survive. Deep within the labyrinthine halls of the obsidian palace, a group of vampire nobles gathered in secret, their faces obscured by shadows and their voices hushed with urgency. Among them was Lord Valek, a figure of imposing stature and piercing crimson eyes. He had long chafed under the rule of Empress Raven, his ambition burning like an unquenchable flame. "The time has come for change," Lord Valek declared, his voice a low, seductive purr. "For too long we have bowed to the whims of an empress who clings to the ways of the past. It is time for a new order, a new vision for our kind." The other nobles murmured their agreement, their own desires for power and change simmering just beneath the surface. But not all were swayed by Lord Valek's honeyed words. Lady Isidore, a vampire of ancient lineage and unwavering loyalty, stepped forward, her emerald eyes flashing with defiance. "You speak of change, Lord Valek, but what you propose is nothing short of treason. Empress Raven has led us through centuries of darkness, and we owe her our allegiance." Lord Valek's lips curled into a smile, a gesture that held no warmth. "Allegiance, my dear Isidore, is a currency that has lost its value in the empire of blood and shadows. The strong take what they desire, and the weak are left to wither in the darkness." He turned to face the gathered nobles, his voice rising with fervor. "Join me, and together we shall forge a new dynasty, one where the power of the undead knows no bounds." As the nobles dispersed, their loyalties divided, and their hearts filled with a tangled web of ambition and fear, Lady Isidore slipped away, her mind racing with the implications of what she had witnessed. She knew that the seeds of rebellion had been sown, and that the very foundations of the vampire dynasty were beginning to crack. The question that haunted her was not whether change would come, but rather who would be left standing when the dust settled. Whispers of unrest and betrayal reached the ears of Empress Raven, carried on the winds of the night like the echoes of a distant scream. She sat upon her throne, her alabaster fingers tightening around the armrests as she contemplated the growing discord within her realm. The darkness that had once been her ally now seemed to hold 1,000 watching eyes, each one filled with the promise of treachery. In the face of this rising tide of opposition, Empress Raven knew that she needed to act decisively. She summoned her most trusted advisor, a vampire named Maliki, whose loyalty had been forged in the crucible of centuries. "Maliki," she spoke, her voice a velvet caress tinged with steel, "I need you to uncover the roots of this rebellion. Find those who would see me fall and bring them to me." Maliki bowed deeply, his raven-black hair falling like a curtain across his face. "As you command, my Empress." He melted into the shadows, his mind already racing with the names of those who might have reason to move against the throne. In the world of the undead, secrets were the most valuable currency, and Maliki had a talent for ferreting them out. As Maliki delved deeper into the web of intrigue that had taken hold of the vampire dynasty, he uncovered whispers of an ancient prophecy, one that spoke of a time when the empire of blood and shadows would be consumed by the very darkness that sustained it. The prophecy spoke of a figure known only as the Crimson Queen, who would rise from the ashes of the old order to forge a new era of power and domination. Maliki knew that this prophecy could be the key to unraveling the rebellion, but he also sensed that it held a deeper, more terrifying truth. The Crimson Queen was not just a symbol of change, but a harbinger of something far more sinister. As he raced back to the Obsidian Palace to warn Empress Raven, Maliki couldn't shake the feeling that they were all dancing on the edge of an abyss, one that threatened to swallow them all. As the palace halls echoed with the whispers of the ancient prophecy, Lord Valek moved to solidify his grasp on power. He had long prepared for this moment, cultivating alliances and gathering secrets that would serve as weapons in the coming battle. With a smile that dripped with venom, he set his plans in motion, ready to strike at the heart of Empress Raven's rule. But even as Lord Valek marshaled his forces, another figure emerged from the shadows, one who had been watching and waiting for centuries. She was known as Lilith, a vampire of immense power and unfathomable age, her beauty as timeless as it was terrifying. Lilith had seen empires rise and fall, and she knew that the prophecy of the Crimson Queen held the key to her own ascension. Lilith approached Empress Raven in the dark of night, her voice a seductive whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "My dear Raven," she purred, "you have ruled well, but the time has come for a new queen to take the throne. The prophecy speaks of a power beyond imagining, and I am the one destined to wield it." Empress Raven's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a snarl. "I will not be cast aside so easily, Lilith. My power is rooted in centuries of blood and sacrifice, and I will not surrender it to anyone. Prophecy be damned." The two vampires faced each other, the air between them crackling with the energy of their immortal wills. In that moment, the very foundations of the Obsidian Palace seemed to tremble, as if the ancient stones themselves could sense the coming storm. The vampire nobles, caught between the machinations of Lord Valek and the rising tide of prophecy, began to choose sides, their loyalties fracturing like shards of glass. The empire of blood and shadows teetered on the brink of chaos, and only one thing was certain: the night would run red with the blood of the fallen. The night of the prophecy's fulfillment had come, and the Obsidian Palace was in turmoil. Lord Valek's forces clashed with those loyal to Empress Raven, the ancient halls echoing with the sounds of battle and the screams of the dying. Amidst the chaos, Lilith moved like a shadow, her power growing with each passing moment, as she drew upon the dark energies that swirled around her. Empress Raven fought with the fury of a cornered beast, her blade flashing in the darkness as she cut down those who dared to stand against her. But even her centuries of skill and power could not stem the tide of betrayal that crashed against the walls of her empire. One by one, her allies fell, until she stood alone, surrounded by the triumphant forces of Lord Valek and the ethereal presence of Lilith. "It is over, Raven," Lord Valek declared, his voice dripping with savage joy. "The prophecy has been fulfilled, and a new era dawns for the vampire dynasty." He turned to Lilith, his eyes filled with a mix of reverence and fear. "The Crimson Queen shall ascend, and all shall bow before her." Lilith stepped forward, her alabaster skin glowing with an unearthly light. "The prophecy speaks of power beyond imagining," she intoned, her voice echoing through the shattered halls of the palace. "But it also speaks of sacrifice. The blood of the Empress must be spilled to usher in the new age." With a flick of her wrist, she summoned a blade of pure darkness, its edge honed to a razor's sharpness. Empress Raven lifted her chin, her eyes blazing with defiance even in the face of her impending doom. "I may fall," she whispered, her voice filled with the weight of centuries. "But the empire of blood and shadows will endure. The darkness is eternal, and it will not be tamed by the likes of you." As Lilith's blade descended, Empress Raven's final thoughts were of the countless nights she had spent in the embrace of the shadows, and the bitter realization that even immortality had its limits. In the end, the Crimson Queen ascended, and the Obsidian Palace fell silent, a monument to the eternal struggle for power that lies at the heart of the vampire dynasty.